Isn't it? The things that kill us are the things we cannot see.
So what size should I do?
So think about whether you want to put it in your bedroom
Just the bedroom, yes.
and also your office. Or, yeah, just the bedroom.
Just the bedroom.
Office might be too challenging if you're in an open plan office.
Yeah, but this is the one I should be getting.
Yeah, just check the one that I have in my office there, the small
Okay,
office.
small one, right?
And then the water filter, the small one. Right. So Elizabeth, you're cold. It's blowing.
It's always blowing.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
you
you
need
need
to
to
sit somewhere. Is it blowing there too?
It's always been, even yesterday. Yeah,
Okay, can you guys move from the back there, because I think the back area there is much better.
Yeah, it's the back of the cat.
Well, they're my staff and they have coats.
Oh.
And they have jackets. Yes.
Yeah, because it's
Because the
blowing
vent
right
is right here.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you, Kenny? Come grab a seat, Kenny. The air is not going to affect you, right? So did the two of you ever meet at Landmark? She did Landmark.
But I know, I see her when she did Ivy here before, so I know.
Oh, really?
Yeah. How are you? No, I don't.
But Dinah also did Landmark.
She's my classmate in FEL.
Yes.
Who is?
No, but I did it with her on the second, oh my God, I did it, she's in my group.
We are in the
We are,
FEL.
yeah, we are in the group.
Really?
Yeah, when I was a teen, yeah, she was in my group.
So there are quite a few Landmark people upstairs, right? Clarice and a
Yes.
couple of. You need some more water? You're good. Where is
They're finishing up that competition.
Oh, okay. Why is it taking so long? My God, guys, you practiced. No, it should take less than 10 minutes. Wow. We need to get more efficient in body composition, right? So yes, so those water filters are really important. A lot of people don't understand the real value, the recommended level for detoxification. Let's start there while we're waiting. So let's look at toxicity and detoxification. Okay? So in testing, we test for heavy metals, right? That is really the big issue. The heavy metals testing in your urine, right? And where are they coming from? From water, mostly, from air, and from food. Plus, where else do you think toxicity comes from? No, we've spoken air, water, and food. Where else does it come from? Huh? No. So it comes from our creams and makeup.
Oh.
It comes from soaps and perfumes.
Really?
Yes. So all of those things are that's why even now if you look at a lot of the areas, even the sanitary towels have toxicity.
Yes.
And so your body absorbs all of that. So you have to use organic cotton or whatever you're using for that. Okay, guys? And I know a lot of people are like, really? Yes, that's why we're all dying from cancer and things. Hello. Come grab a seat over here. Yeah, sit here. I'm going to be speaking in English. Do you need translation?
Yeah, this translation better.
Yeah, then sit next to her here. Okay. So we're just talking about toxicity. So a lot of people think that they're fine, right? And a lot of people go to Sprouts and Trader Joe's and they just think that they can buy anything. So even your creams, your soaps, your conditioners, your shampoos, your perfumes, it's very, very important that you begin to really understand what is in all of them, including lipstick that you're sucking all day. Right? You're sucking your lipstick all day. How many times do you retouch your lipstick all day? Some people 20, 30. Kenny, right? You and I, lipstick, right? Look at my red lips. Like, even the, what do you call the chapsticks, right? So, there is a big need for detoxification, right? So we have a 10-day, an 8-day, and a 30-day detox cycle. This you should do 4 times a year. For people who have specific illnesses, even like MS or Alzheimer's, they might even go for a deeper level of detox called chelation. I'm not going to talk about that because it really requires specific kinds of detox. And we'll find out when we normally do your heavy metal analysis. Because all these heavy metals sit inside your organs. Your kidney, your liver, your heart, your lungs, that's where they go reside. And when we want to bring them out, so why do we want to detoxify? Who knows the answer? Why should we detoxify? Why do we need to flush it out? Because all these elements are radioactive. And what does radioactivity mean? No, they have a frequency of releasing radioactivity which causes cell mutation, which causes cancer. So if you don't extract them, they keep emitting radioactive waves. Okay? So that's why you need to detox. But these bad people is that when you release them out of the body, you have to do it very carefully so that they are excreted out through your poo and urine very carefully. So if you've never done a detox, the first time you do it, you're going to get like flu. Okay? You'll get like flu-like symptoms. So we tend to, if you've never done a detox before, we tend to prefer you start with a 30-day detox. Or you do what I do, even though I detox, I also take daily Metalloclear, yes. And sulfur clear. Okay? Daily. It's very important for a lot of us who use chemicals, and especially for women who use a lot of makeup. It is really important that you detox daily because there's a lot of really interesting things in all of the makeup products. Okay, are we clear about that? I just wanted to start this on detox and the detoxification. So if you really look at, there is a sickness called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Most people have it because the liver is the central source of our detoxification. Everything is filtered through the liver, and so we call it non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Everybody has it, and detox is the only way to clean your liver. Okay?
Does that show up on your...
No, it doesn't. Okay. Body composition is just your structural analysis. Oh. That's what the body composition report. This would show up only in your urine toxicity test. which I think most of you have done.
The Boston.
No, no,
Not the
it's
Boston.
the doctor's data.
Oh.
The doctor's data urine test will show your toxicity. Okay? Good. So today what we're going to talk about, don't compare your reports now. You're going to have all week to compare how good you're doing. Very competitive. Soon we're going to create a competitive center. Kim is going to run it because Kim loves competition to see who is our top performing patient of the month.
It's Vincent.
And we're going to give free supplements.
I was told. Vincent has the highest score.
And then we'll have a competition. We'll give the patient who is the top performing patient of the month free monthly supplements, right? Don't you think? Yara now wants to compete. So we have for our staff, but we're also going to do it for patients. Yeah, but we need your permission. We're going to use just the number score and nothing else, and we are going to give the award based on performance, percentage of improvement. Any number, how much you
Just
improved.
increase the percentage.
Yes.
So you don't have the high level, but you improve.
All right, Elizabeth, the competition hasn't started yet. You know, it's like when before we say let the games begin, we have to shoot the gun, right? People are like, should we start? You guys want to start running. We haven't started running yet.
We're hitting the engine now.
I know. Get your engine started. Okay, so what we want to talk about today is something that is really critical in health or life. So I'm starting at the beginning of life. So we're going to start with something called the want and need gap. To be, to being, to becoming. Right? I want, I become, I am, right? What is the difference between wanting, needing, and becoming and being? Hello, I have smart people in the room. So which one is higher, need or want?
Need.
Why?
It's a necessity, not a design. One is required.
All right, so did we hear that? This is a necessity and this is a desire. And so Buddhism teaches us that we should do what? Kill all desire. Then you'll be happy. I know, like our desire for Louis Vuitton. Right? And where do we know our needs? How do we know which needs we have? There is literature on needs. There's a needs hierarchy. What is the number one need? Okay, level one. So it is good that everybody references this architecture. It's called what? The Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Very important in the literature, right? Maslow hierarchy of needs. Okay? It's good that everybody knows it. The most important level is this level, and for people who know, like Dinah, what is it called? No, it is the love.
The love. Sorry.
And what is the other problem with this level? Self-esteem. It is the gateway to success. If you can cross that path, then you move into what we call self-actualization and self-something.
Realization.
Self-dependence. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, let's go below. Are you getting this or are you guys lost? All right, so what is below love? Level 2, that's 3, that's 4, that's 5. What is below love? Huh? Yes, belonging. The need to belong. Family, friends, all of that. Very powerful need. And what is the level 1 need? Survival. Right? Safety. Safety and survival. Okay? So the hierarchy, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is a really very important reference point for you to understand your needs and how you accomplish your needs. The reason why we spend a lot of time in level 3 is because this is where a lot of people lose their way. Right? Nobody loves me. No one loves me. It is really amazing. All of psychology is centered around that shit. Low self-esteem, lack of self-ego, all of psychology is about that level. And so if you cannot cross that level, you cannot self-actualize, which is really the problem in moving from here to there. That is really what self-actualization is about. How do I move from here to becoming so that I meet all my wants and my needs? Are we clear? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So a lot of people want to be healthy. Healthy is a need. It's really at the core here to survive. We want a healthy, long life, right? It is, can we make sure the door is open so they don't lock it? Did you check?
Yeah.
So being healthy and having a healthy long life is at the core here, right? You want to survive a long time and reproduce so that the universe will not forget you, right? And we're going to talk about that now, what is in the middle. So the first thing here that we're going to talk about is called purpose. Purpose allows us to actualize what life means to us. And there are 3 kinds of life that we want or need. A good life, a pleasant life, and a meaningful life. Those are the 3 lives that all of us need and want. Are we clear about that? Okay. So I want us to talk about it. So you are going to tell me what it means. What is a good life?
Prosper.
Huh?
Health and prosper.
No, you're mixing up. So I want you to identify these 3 things because they're very different. So when he talks about health, you can only have a pleasant life through health. Mostly. You can have a good life even if you're not healthy. Right? So I want for each person here to think about it. When I look at what is a good life, for me, a good life is that I'm living in the 40th floor in Manhattan, right, in the penthouse, right, and my helicopter touches down so I don't have to mix with poor people, right? For me, it's a good life, right? And my limo and driver are always available and my plane is always ready, right? It's a good life. A pleasant life, right, is where everybody loves me, my children love me, My family is all healthy and perfect. And a meaningful life is that I build a university that has my name so that my name will never die in eternity. Right? So they can even name the five freeway the Charles Cena Freeway. So that for eternity, when you're driving on that freeway, you'll say, I am driving on the Charles Cena Freeway. Vincent, don't you think that's what should happen? We're driving on the Charles Cena Freeway. Don't you want that for your lives? Hello, everybody is looking at me like in shock. You don't want your name?
No, I'd rather have a good life than the meaning.
You don't care about the meaningful life?
I don't care what the name of the freeway.
That was yeah, what do you care about? Tell us. What kind of meaning? What do you want your life to mean?
Your life has to have purpose. What do you have?
No, tell me. So give me an example. How are we going to, what are you going to say in the end that I had a meaningful life?
Legacy?
Yes. And what is that legacy?
Whatever that you...
No, I'm asking for you.
I don't have one yet.
Who has one?
I don't have a legacy.
And what's your legacy, Dinah?
I want to have a scholarship in the university where I graduated from.
Okay, so she wants to set up a scholarship like program in the university where she grew up. Like one of my staff upstairs wants to build a road from the freeway to his village. Right? So people have legacies. Each of us should have one. Or if you don't have one yet, think about one. Right? Is that making sense? So what is required for us to achieve purpose? Okay?
It's going to be a lie first.
My staff very smart. We need resources. So in strategy, there's something called, now I'm going deep into MBA speak, the resource-based view of strategy. So most of life is resource-driven, right? You need resources. So we're going to talk about the 5 resources that drive our lives. And also, as my staff will know, I call it the freedom box.
So, by the way, before you erase it, the final one is transcendence.
Yes, self-transcendence. Thank you. So people should read that. That's the level on the Maslow hierarchy of needs. So let's look at the 5 resources. And I call this the freedom box. And what the freedom box means is that your freedom is the size of this box, right? Your ability to execute on your freedom, or which is purpose, is driven by the size of that box, right? And number 1 on that box is health. Number 2 is?
Financial.
No. Number 2 is what?
Relationship.
No, is knowledge. Number 3 is relationships. Number 4 is time. And number 5 is the one we think is number 1, which is money. Okay? All of these things are resources, right? If you have this and you don't have these other ones, it doesn't mean anything. That's the thing about money, right? So these are the resources that we need. And based on the amount that we have, good health, lots of knowledge, everybody loves you, we all have the same time. My God, imagine what you do with that money. Okay? Is this making sense, guys? So what will take us from purpose to becoming, we have to go through the barrier of resources. We need those resources, right? If your health is down, everything else goes down. Doesn't matter whether you're Einstein. So at the core of life is really health, right? It really is at the center of you managing all the resources of what we call freedom. Okay? And what is freedom? So freedom is not that you live in a democracy or you live in China. Freedom is that because if you go to China or Vietnam that I go often, the people who have this are free. They don't need government to tell them that they are free. When you have these things, it doesn't matter where you live, you're free. Do you get that? It's very important that people understand that. They think that it's the country that makes them free. So like Kim and I have discussed this before. People leave Vietnam and come and wash plates in restaurants here. And you would think their life was better in Vietnam than being here. And then people tell me, oh, but the air is very dirty in Vietnam compared to here. Or the food, you know, people create this illusion around the world that living in America is better than living in the Philippines or living in Korea or living, it's all bullshit. Actually, there are many Americans who are retiring in the Philippines. Many Americans are retiring in Vietnam. So who's smarter, right? So it's very interesting, and the issue is because of that. It's because of freedom. When you have freedom, you can choose to retire anywhere and don't tell stories. Are we clear? So now let's move to the next step. You now have purpose. You now have resources. Something is critical because a lot of people have this too, but they still cannot become. Right? They still cannot become what it is they wanted in the first place. And the final thing that stops us are two things actually. Can we close the door? And then open those back doors and put the air in the back there so we get the air. Okay? Put the air on there. All right. Okay, so we're going to talk now about that third and fourth thing that is really at the center of actually delivering. And it is behaviors, or what we call habits. So we're going to talk about habits and the actions that support that. Any questions so far? Is everybody getting this? So this is the most confusing thing in life. People don't know which one is very important. A lot of people think that, oh, a lot of people die because they don't have knowledge. Ignorance is killing a lot of Americans. Because they go and the doctor says you need this and they do it and they die, you know, you can't accuse the doctor for being stupid. Right? Your own stupidity causes your own death. So knowledge is really a very, very important issue that you have. Right? Especially if you live in freedom, like America, if you don't have knowledge, that's your fault. A lot of people are really lonely in America. You know, we came to America because most of us did not like the old culture where everybody and family is all together, right? So we come here and then we're all dying from loneliness. Right? And then you begin to realize that there was some benefit in everybody being together. Right? And then we came to the West and learned the selfishness. My bedroom, my house, my car, my. In my village, I never heard my grandfather say my anything. It was our family home, our farm, our land. Do you understand? So we transitioned from our family to my. Even my children, that's how they speak. Where is mine? Right? And that is the separation that leads to a lot of loneliness. Because nights have become, so if everything is yours, then everybody's going to say, okay, it's yours, fine, you can have it. So we don't need to bother. So even among my children, right, when one of them has a problem, the other ones think their job is to observe. But in Africa, if one of my brothers has a problem, there is an expectation that I will step up because that's how families are together, right? And then time. we were just talking with Elizabeth and Beate, thank you for that German name, about time, right? Used to play tennis with some friends, and I used to talk to them about how you use your time, right? You know, we all have 24 hours, and he used to watch football and basketball every year, and so we calculated the hours per week he spent watching basketball and football, and it was about 20 hours a week. And so I challenged him, go do a master's degree and stop watching basketball and football. And within a year, he had a master's degree. By just stopping, he was working full-time and did his master's degree. So the question you then ask yourself, what do you do with your time? We all have the same time. Are you spending it watching people who are very well paid? Which is the stupidity about watching sport, right? They are paid millions and you sit there watching. I'm so angry they didn't score the goal. They have $1 million contract. They don't care about winning. They've been paid already, right? They've been paid already. You were not paid anything for watching, right? Or boxing. They make millions and we are there watching on HBO. Oh, did you see that HBO special? Right? Or Games of Thrones, which is really a bullshit story. Actually, it's fiction. Right? And everybody, 20 million Americans watch the final right? So we spend a lot of time, and then when you ask people, how many hours do you spend on your health or on knowledge every week? Or on relationships? Or on making money? Most of mine is there. Right? But I also now have learned I spend a lot more time distributed across that to ensure that I increase my amount of freedom. So now let's talk about the behaviors specifically around health that are required, because I cannot teach you about all the 5 of them. I could if I had the time. But today we're just going to focus on healthy behaviors and then how we build habits. So let's talk about those behaviors. Questions? Any questions so far? No? The room is quiet. Is the room too hot? Put the air conditioning back. No. But increase the temperature. We need air flowing. This one is too noisy here. So put it and then move the temperature up so that people don't get cold. We need to breathe. Okay? I don't want people sleeping. Okay? So let's look at the behaviors. So we are taking one of the resources called health, and we are looking at the behaviors that drive our health. And there are 7 of them. Number 1 is macronutrients. Not diet. Number 2 is micronutrients. Number 3 is sleep. Number 4 is stress. Number 5 is hydration. Number 6 is toxicity. And number 7 is exercise. Did you see medication anywhere here? My grandfather lived to 104. He never took any medication. Right? So let's talk about each of these and what we call intelligent lifestyle design. So these are lifestyle habits. So in my company, we call this intelligent lifestyle design because most people's lifestyle is not designed. Right? Most people think, they'll say, oh, I eat well. Then I say, okay, let's talk about what you're actually eating. Yeah, but no. Right? Most people don't really know what they're eating. Or when they go shopping in grocery stores, they don't really know what they're buying or what's inside. Or when they are to restaurants, they really don't know the quality of what they're eating. Right? And they have stayed ignorant about it because everybody else in this society is ignorant about it. So we have come to accept a level of ignorance about macronutrients that is very deceptive, right? So now there are formulas around calorie restriction and time restriction, right? I've spoken about that a lot in different classes here. So we should eat only when the sun is up. That's what all the research is showing. They call it the circadian rhythm. Light is what drives the human architecture. That's how God made it. Even the cycles of the woman, who is the creative force on earth, is driven by the moon and the sun. Right? Same thing with men. That's what drives the architecture of life. The sun and darkness. Okay? And so all our eating should be done following when our metabolism is running. And our metabolism kicks off around 7 a.m. and slows down around 6 p.m. Eating after 6 p.m. gives you food in your stomach that cannot be digested until the next morning. So the food just sits there and causes a lot of stomach problems, right? And over time, it becomes really challenging. Calorie restriction, we know the formula from 2,000 to 1,000 to 500 to 250. So by the time you're 80 years old, that's 60, that's 40, that's 20. By the time you're 80 years old, you should be eating daily only 250 calories. That's the caloric restriction process. That's all the calories you need. Yes.
On composition, it tells you how many calories to take.
No, it does not.
But tell me
It-
how much you're allowed, you can burn.
How much you can.
It tells you your basal metabolic rate.
Okay. So
And what is your basal metabolic rate? Let's have a conversation about that. It's a very important question. What is the meaning of your basal metabolic rate?
that's as many calories as your body can handle for the day.
That's not true.
That's how much you actually burn.
So that's what you burn
bottom
at
power
rest.
At rest. No
Okay, guys, very important. We all understand that. Basal metabolic rate is the number of calories you burn at rest. Then the activity metabolic rate is the amount of energy you burn when you're active, right? And the difference,
It's about 600 to 700.
yeah, it's about movement. Okay? So the question is, now let's wrap it back to this. If my basal metabolic rate is 1,500 and I'm eating just 1,000, what's going to happen to me?
You lose weight.
No, not weight,
You lose
fat.
fat. Yes, I mean, turn out.
Okay, you lose fat.
Don't you lose also muscle?
No, because you have muscle. No, hold on. So we would look at the critical measures from body composition, which is the lean body mass and the percentage of body fat. If you look at people who have that ideal number, you find out that they're very muscular and zero fat. Her sister was almost one of the most ideal we measured, right, Vincent?
Not even.
She doesn't catch. And because she's been eating once a day
no
for
carbs.
over 30 years.
And no carbs.
Yes. And she runs every day.
She exercises every day, 7 days a week.
Her BMI is what? 19?
18, 16 or 17.
18. That's like a marathon runner. Okay? So that's what we're talking about. She eats once a day. I remember on a flight to London in first class, there was this model sitting next to me. What it was, a 12-hour flight. She ate 2 leaves of lettuce and 6 glasses of water. 2 leaves of lettuce. That's what it takes to be a model. Calorie restriction. Okay? Are we clear about that? So this teaching is a very important teaching, right? By the time you're 80, you should practically just be drinking our glucose medical food.
That's 210 calories, right?
It's 210 calories. But what is it that the body actually needs? Because this is the problem when you live in America. You get confused between macronutrients and micronutrients. So most of our calories comes from macronutrients. The body is actually hungry for micronutrients. The body is not hungry for calories. The body is hungry for micronutrients. So when the body is hungry, there are 2 things it needs. What are the 2 things it needs? And water. Is that clear? Whenever you're hungry, that's what the body actually needs. The minerals, we have a list. Can you give a copy of our micronutrient list? The FDA, the RDA? Give her, where's the RDA list? Okay. Those are micronutrients. That's what the body needs. Okay?
Vitamins.
And minerals. Vitamins and minerals. That's what the body needs. And those are the levels and amounts of what it needs. The body doesn't need calories. It doesn't.
And when you're hungry, you're desiring some of it.
Yes. No, all of it. You're short of one of those. And when you have it, actually you will not be hungry. So where do you think hunger came from? The hunger that you are all familiar with. It came from habit. Yeah, you just like to eat. Who here doesn't like to eat? And where did you learn it? You learn it from your mother. You take 1 spoon and your mother says, you need to eat more. They keep giving you spoons. So you learn that, eating 10, 20 spoons is good. But that's not what your body actually needs. Because in Africa, actually, when a baby is born, we mostly feed it with water and breast milk. And most times when the baby cries, we give the baby water. We don't give breast milk because the baby doesn't really need that. The baby came with a lot of, that's why babies are like fat little balls. They came with a lot of fat. They don't really need food. They just need water. Because once they're outside of the womb, everything is dehydrating, right? So we give water until the baby actually needs food. So we don't end up with fat babies, right? The baby just grows fatter and fatter. Now obesity is at 6 years old, right? We just keep feeding the babies, right? Is that making sense? So let's talk about micronutrients. So you've seen the micronutrient report. That is the minimum levels that you should have every day. That's the daily requirement, your minimum level. That's what the body needs. If the body doesn't have it, it develops chronic illness. That's it. There's no way out of it. You can't say, oh, I'm different. No, you're not. We're all the same. And you should have that every day. And so if for 40 years you've not been having that, the air is not on. I can't hear it. Don't put it too high. People are sweating already. Okay? So if for 40 years you've not been having nutrients, what do you think happens to your body? You're sick. And the first signs of it is brain fog, like most of my staff have. Right? I can't remember anything. Oh, even if I read a page, I fall asleep. Yeah, your body lacks nutrients. Right? The body has stopped performing. I can't see well in the dark anymore. Oh, where is the direction again? I can't even remember 3 steps. You take left, you take right, you take left and left. I'm confused. Can you repeat that? Right? If your brain is that way, you have brain fog. Your brain is dying on you. And what is the next stage after brain fog? Dementia and Alzheimer's. She's running a lot of ratings on that stuff upstairs. Most Americans are already on their way lost. Right? Because of nutrient deficiency. It's a very, very critical thing. When you go to the village, you don't see people lost in the village, those old women. They're all walking to the farm, right? If you go to the blue zone in Japan, at 105, those women are diving 10, 20 meters to go get the scallops and things. At 105 years old. Watch the video. They have capacity. They are not in old people's home. Do you get that? They are healthy because they are on a rich diet of seaweed, of seafood, of vegetables, of beans. The big superfood worldwide is beans. Right?
What kind of beans?
Any kind of beans. Because beans packs a lot of food, protein for the growth of the next generation. Right? It's a seed. Whenever you eat seeds, it's very good. Right? Seeds are packed nutrition like umbilical cord for the next generation of the plant.
Isn't that a carbohydrate?
No, not at the level that it will be giving you all these calories. No, bread is not a seed. And I didn't say you eat a whole big bowl of it, of cornflakes, right? It's carbohydrate, but it's at the right small amount. The body needs a little bit. Like avocado has carbohydrates, but it's mostly fat and protein. So there's carbohydrate, but very, very low levels of it, so that it doesn't trigger what we call insulin resistance, right? Okay, let's go to the next one, sleep. Everybody has a bad habit. So because we're not eating well, I'll go back to number 1 and 2. Because we're not eating well, that's why we have chosen a real comprehensive supply of micronutrients that is for your age and your gender. Okay? If you don't take it, you begin to have what we call epigenetic effects, where your body has decided that we are not used to getting vitamin D, so we're going to turn off the marker of libido, and you get erectile dysfunction. For 20, 30 years you didn't take it. Now we need to turn it off because what's the point? Right? Turn it off. Oh my God, we need some Viagra, need some shit, right? These are all epigenetic outcomes because, as I said yesterday in class, if you go to my village, 70, 80-year-old men are still producing babies. But you come to the West, over 50% of the men above 50 have erectile dysfunction. Or the women have lost libido. And so they are getting divorced because nobody is sure what's going on. Without intimacy, marriages don't work. So if one person doesn't like sex and one person wants it, what do you think is going to happen? Yeah, but for how long is one person going to compromise? Exactly, right? And so, oh, that's a bad man. He left his wife after 40 years of marriage. Well, oh, that woman is terrible. She likes only younger men. Isn't that what our society has become? Because people are finding intimacy. Without intimacy, there is no life. We're just animals. There's no essence to living, right? We are in a generation of choice where people are not going to force themselves to stay with you just because that's the custom. Now we have choice. If you are not giving me what I need, and I have a big freedom box. I say bye-bye, I'll pay child support and alimony. Bye-bye, I'm gone. And that's what we see happening, right? When there's a loss of intimacy. And you know, like in Asia, it's a big problem because once the women have children, the men see them as mothers, not as wife or lovers anymore. And some of the women themselves lose interest in sex, right? So do the men. So you have this big arising problem that as the number of children is going down, I mean, even the amount of sex, there's a large study that came out in Asia. You know, the Asians have the lowest amount of sex. The number was like, well, I didn't mean the Philippines. Yeah. The average amount of sex that Asians are having is like once every 6 months. That's a statistic. Compared to America, which is like once a month. Right? Yeah, I know you are in the upper. Yeah, he's saying that he's like an Asian once every 6 months. Okay. And that's really all about nutrition. That's all. The women suffer from dryness, the pain during sex, loss of libido. All of that is from nutrients. And why? Because plus the hormonal issues of menopause, that estrogen that drives desire is gone. All of a sudden it's like, I do not like sex. If you say that, that's an illness. Sex is essential as part of us. So that's always a very big sign that something is going wrong with your health. Once you lose libido and you have no desire anymore and you're very dry, that is a big sign of the fact that you're not healthy. Okay, so it's a very important, and I'm spending time on this because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm fine. You know inside yourself that you're not fine. Something has gone wrong, right? As when we were talking today to Beate, right? You know when your system has changed, right? Especially as you go through that whole hormonal architectural change. Sleep is actually the first place where you know something is wrong. And then we live in a society where people are drinking coffee all day, and then they cannot sleep, and then they suffer from what we call overexcitation. That's what coffee does to you. If I haven't drank coffee since I was 20 years old. If I drink coffee now, I know I'll be trembling. So if it has that effect on you and you're drinking 4 to 5 cups a day, you need to ask yourself, why do I need coffee? Right? And it causes what we call overexcitation, which removes the cover from your nerve cells and then ends up with what we call demyelination. And that is really the big challenge in Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and dementia, and multiple sclerosis, the demyelination of the nerve cells. And it comes from overexcitation from alcohol, from smoking, from coffee, from toxicity, from all of these things that are from outside of the body. Overexcitation. It's a very challenging issue. Okay? So sleep becomes a real big indicator. Sleep is what resets the body. Right? Every night, we power down around 10 p.m., the power of the architecture goes down because the body changes the circulatory system and the energy system to detoxify, to clean, and to repair. So if by 10 o'clock you're not fast asleep, the body is like a car that is like, what's going on? Well, it's sputtering, right? What's going on? We need to be, right? It's been 4 hours since the sun went down. We need to be in that state of disrepair, right? And you are sleeping there on the couch, watching TV and eating pizza. Right? Yeah, drinking beer. Right? And where did this habit of us staying up late come from? It started when the white man discovered electricity. Because in the village where we use petrol, kerosene lamps, by 8 p.m., everybody's in bed. But the minute we got these lights that look like daylight, everybody thought they could stay up late. Oh, I like to sleep in late. Well, go to bed early. Right? How many people know chicken that sleep late? Do you know any chicken that sleeps late? Or pigs that sleep late? So why did we think that we could stay healthy and sleep late? You see the point? The chicken go to bed when the sun goes down, and they wake up 5:30, right? And you're like, shit, that is a village sound, right? Then let's talk about stress, right? A lot of people don't have good habits in coping with stress, right? And at the center of stress is something we call the management of appetite. So I have a formula for stress that I called appetite and performance. Right? When appetite is bigger than performance, lots of stress. Looking at Hermes bags that cost $15,000, and that is your annual salary, right? You shouldn't be looking at a bag that is more than your annual salary, right? When your appetite is less than performance, this is like the Chinese. You have a lot of savings. Right? It's the highest saving culture on earth, right? Until we started telling them how to buy things online, right? For most of us, we are trying for appetite to match our performance, right? So that's the three states. These are the people who are happiest, where their consumption is lower than their performance. Same thing with food, right? You know, some of us are so greedy with food. I love eating. Who doesn't? So when I watch people like in buffet in Vegas, I haven't been like in 5-6 years. When you watch people at the buffet, because they paid money. Or if you go here to the Korean buffet, they pay $20 and they eat for 2 hours. And you're like, who are you cheating? You're killing yourself for $20, right? You see the point, you see the culture of, because, see, your appetite is bigger than your performance, right? But if you go to Mastro's, so $20 you eat for 2 hours. You go to Mastro's, you know, the steak place in South Coast Plaza, one steak is $250, right? And it's it's like this restaurant, the Argentinian steak place in Ho Chi Minh City, right? The steak is like this. Oh, this meat is really high quality meat, and it's $200, right? And people were like, "Is that all my food? Where is my food?" Right? Because the quality of the steak is so good, they give you just that. But that's enough, right? With some asparagus or something. So this issue of appetite, on top of the other things about stress. So one of the big things we're going to talk about is how do you manage your appetite? But also, how do you manage your performance? Okay? So don't have big appetite, and that's what happened with the housing market in America. You know, in Asia, in Europe, people don't buy houses until they can afford it. The illusion in America is that everybody wanted a big home and then the big home became a trap. You're working to keep the big home. That means nothing. It's just a stupid home. First of all, the bank actually owns it. So if you don't really, everybody is working hard to pay mortgage. Why? The people in Europe are traveling the world. Americans are like, I can't travel because I have to pay my mortgage. The Europeans are traveling around the world enjoying themselves. The Koreans are traveling. The Japanese are traveling because they all live in one home. Right? The children, their wives, their children all live in the same house, so they can go see them in Vietnam, see them in the Philippines, see them in China. They're traveling everywhere. The Chinese are starting to do it now too, right? And in Americans, how many Americans have passport? Less than 1/3. Yes. Less than 100 million Americans have passport. And less than 80 million Americans have been out of the US because they're trapped in their big houses. See the point? So they have no perspective about the world. They think that the world was created here. You understand? They have no idea about the world or how the world feels. They say, oh, isn't it really dangerous for you to go to China? I'm like, when were you last in China? Oh, I've never been. Then how would you know? Right? When I'm in Shanghai or in Beijing, I don't see the communist police marching around me. Right? Even in Tiananmen Square, right? Even in Guangzhou, or even in Saigon, right? You've been to Ho Chi Minh City. You don't see the communist police coming to the Hyde Park Hotel, which is like the collection of all the rich people there, sipping their champagnes and talking about global hunger or some shit, right? So the question is that when you don't travel the world, you stay ignorant, seriously ignorant about what's actually going on, okay? So let's talk about hydration. Most Americans grew up not drinking water because they have soda. Right? And so a lot of people don't, you know, when I first arrived in America, I could not understand. At Disney, I was at Disney as a program director. They had a big refrigerator full of soda. And I couldn't understand, why do we have soda? Right? And some people would drink like, you know, as they drink coffee, they're drinking soda. I couldn't understand it because in Europe, nobody drinks soda like that. And then also, when you go to McDonald's, they have this cup.
7-Eleven.
Yeah, what do they call that size?
The big gulp.
The 32 ounce.
Yes, super size. And you begin to wonder, the Europeans think, are you carrying your children in that cup? And they take it into the car, or they bring it into the movie. This side of popcorn, this side of corn. Killing themselves with bullshit. Right? Do you see? And everybody thinks it's cultural, and then we all come from Africa, Asia, Latin America. Oh, the American way, you carry popcorn and your big drink. And you kill yourself like the rest of Americans. You understand? It's really amazing how a lot of people don't drink water and drink quality water. The body is 80% water. The body needs water because we used to be water animals. The body needs water all the time. All the time. Because when the body is dry, is dehydrated, the body becomes acidic. And when the body is acidic, cancer loves acidity. Do you get that? So the issue of water is not like, oh yeah, I don't really like water. That's bullshit. You need to drink water. Because the acidity, water changes the acidity to alkalinity, which is the pH above 7. And that the body thrives. That's why a lot of people buy alkaline water. The body thrives in alkalinity because most bacteria don't survive in alkalinity, right? So even your stomach, if you drink alkaline water or peroxide, it kills a lot of the bacteria because they love acidity, okay? It's a very important issue about hydration, right? It's not just that the cells need turgidity. So when you do your body composition, there is a very important measure there. Let's talk about this briefly so that everybody understands it. There's the measure of extracellular water and intracellular water. So extracellular water is the water that's flowing in your bloodstream. Intracellular water is the water that's inside the cell. Which should be higher? Why? For absorption and something called, so this is the blood, this is the cell, for elimination and absorption. So water is 90% of the micronutrients are water soluble. That's the only way they are being carried into the cell. Right? Are we getting this? The only way they are being carried into the cell, and the only way the bullshit is carried out of the cell. So this whole process is a positive ion, negative ion process using H2O molecules. And that's how absorption and elimination happens at the cellular level. All because of water. So the body doesn't hunger for calories. It needs water because of that underlying process. It's very important, guys. And so we can then talk about how often you need to drink, right? So you really need to drink. So, and if you also don't drink enough water, ladies, you will get UTI. So a lot of women who have UTI is because of dehydration. And so what does dehydration cause? It causes this bacteria to gather, right, that love acidity. And a lot of women don't like to drink water because they don't like to pee. But the pee is really good for your whole urinary tract system.
How much do you drink before you go to bed?
Any amount is fine. Actually, the body needs, yeah. So what? It's actually good. When I wake up to pee once or twice at night, I actually drink a glass of water. And I keep it with lemon. So it's always good to drink warm water and lemon. I drink cold water also, but at night and in the morning, I drink warm water and lemon. Okay, it's very good for your system, for detoxing, right? So a lot of women have UTI and they go to the doctor. So when you have UTI and you go to the doctor, what is the doctor going to say? Take some 2 weeks of antibiotics. Hmm?
Flagell.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called. Yeah.
That's the medication they'll give you.
Eh? Oh, cranberry juice, yeah, right, which is a good way. But the point too with cranberry juice is that it really increases acidity and the sugar. So if you get natural, I mean, it's difficult to find good quality cranberry juice. But if you buy the fruit,
You've been saying that you drink water at night helps you go back to sleep. I am a light sleeper. It's hard to go back to sleep. I've been drinking water at night. When I wake up,
no, part of the reason you may not sleep is a different thing.
oh, I go right
But,
back to sleep now.
oh yeah, but that's what I do. I mean, when I get up and pee and I drink a glass, well, actually we're men. 2-3 minutes I'm gone to sleep. Yeah, we're men. So when men's cycle for sleep is different from women's cycle. You understand? So, but the key issue is that when you also wake up to go pee, you should not be checking your phone. Because, you know, once you check your phone, you're stressing yourself. What are you checking? That he called or didn't call? Did I miss a message? Or did my patient die? Did your patient die while you were sleeping? Do you see the point? I don't check it. I go to sleep. Because I'm going to check it when I wake up at 5:30. Nothing is urgent. Right? Very important, guys. So let's talk about toxicity, the big one. I started with toxicity and detox. You all get it, right? That's why we got the COA system. So when I came into this office upstairs 4 years ago, we almost had 2 or 3 people off sick every week. Now, rarely anybody is sick because we have good air quality systems all throughout the office. So it pays back to me in productivity, right? And we also give them lunch, so at least we have a really controlled environment, right? Nobody is having, we try to get good lunch so that everybody eats well. So it's not because I'm a good person, it's because it increases productivity, right, Luis?
It is good lunch.
Yeah, because it improves productivity and it makes everybody happy that they have a good lunch, right? And I want to reduce their brain fog architecture, right? So they can work smarter, right? Very important. Then the last one is exercise. And the most important exercise is actually stretching. Elizabeth knows that. That is the most important exercise, is stretching, right? And so we do that in the morning every day before we start work. We do some 5 minutes of stretching. And then for women, muscle, especially if you're in menopause. Muscle, very important. If not, by the time you're 65, 70, you'll be having broken bones all the time. Okay? So building muscle, even if you have osteoporosis, the muscle is going to hold it together. But if you don't have muscle and you have calcium depletion and osteoporosis, everything would just crumble. Okay? And that's how most people die, from falling. Okay? So now let's talk about, okay, we've talked about all this habit. How do I build habits? You know? So I'm going to take a couple of minutes. I'm running out of time. But I'm going to show you how to build habits. So the fundamental architecture of building habits is really a 3-step process. So behaviors are habits. How do I build a good behavior, right? Or a good habit? Number 1 is knowledge. Number 2 is knowing how to do it. And number 3 is being. That's it. Most people say this is what we define as competence in that habit. Most people think that if they know, they're competent. You're not. You just know.
Yes, you take action.
You have to take action, and you have to take it repeatedly until it becomes part of your instinct before you become. And what is instinct? That if somebody gives you soda, it doesn't even register in your brain. You're not interested. That's when it's become instinct. If you're like, oh, I wish I could drink Coke, you're not there yet. Do you understand that? It is not yet a habit. You know, I look at Coke and it has no meaning to me. I used to smoke. I stopped a couple of years ago. I look at cigarette now. People who are smoking don't annoy me. I'm not interested. Because I have practiced until I've become a non-smoker. Do you get that? And I drink clean water. When I see water, I want to drink it. I have developed the habit of wanting to drink water, right? And I have a good nose. I can smell bad food from a mile away. So if I walk into a restaurant, I can tell whether the food is good or not. I can smell rotten food, right? I do not eat avocado that's been mashed. I don't take smoothies. They're not good for you because the fiber has been destroyed. The problem with avocado in most restaurants is that they use the molded avocado in mashing the avocado. And mold is one of the biggest issues with disease. Mold from food or from fruits or from nuts. So when you're buying nuts, I know you go, oh, I love the peanut. Oh, I got some nuts from Trader Joe's. Most of them is molded. You're eating molded nuts. Because it's very difficult to dry nuts without mold. My grandfather taught me that how many years ago? Very difficult to dry nuts without mold.
So just don't eat nuts.
Yes. Don't, except you make them.
Don't eat nuts.
Or you go to the farm and harvest them. Yes. It's very tough because the drying process is very challenging with regard to molding. Like most of our homes. Why? Because of vapor. So if the drying process is not done properly, most things are molded, right? Okay. So this process of knowing, doing, and being is very important. And the final step for doing this, so we have what we called a 4-step process. So this is the levels of capability. We call this Foundation 1, Foundation 2, Mastery 1, and Mastery 2. So when we are trying to achieve, to become, through knowing, doing, and being, you have to travel to mastery. That's how it happens. You have to build the foundations, and most of the foundation is around knowledge, right? You have to understand nutrition. Then you begin to build knowledge plus action plus the doing, right? Then the knowledge, the doing, and the being begins to rise, and then you arrive at the being. So it's a gradual process of mastery. You have to build the knowledge, right? If you don't have knowledge, you're ignorant about those topics we just went through. So you need to understand the farming techniques. If you're going to eat nuts, you need to understand which are the good nuts to eat and why. Well, all nuts are good. It depends where you source them from. Right? Walnut is good, but it has a lot of mold. So it depends where you get it. So you need to understand how the product was made. Don't forget that we came from a culture where in the village, everything came from the farm to the table. Right? That's what happened in the old culture, right? Now, it comes from the farm through some bullshit to the table. Nobody knows what's happening in that bullshit process. Do you get the point? And so, you cannot verify, right? Because we used to go get the fish, remove all the entrails, cook the ones we can cook, and smoke the rest from that evening. And we smoked it until for 3-4 months, until it was dry. And my grandfather would say every morning we will bring the fish out for the sun, and the minute the rain showed up, you move it back in, because once it gets wet, the fish is going to mold. But most people don't know that. All right? Yeah, it will get mold. So even though you continue drying it, it now has mold. So when you eat it, what do you think that mold goes where? I'm not scaring you so you don't eat anything, right? But you need to have knowledge in what you're eating because mold is very dangerous. So this process of mastery is really how habits become the behavior that is necessary, right? So it's not just say, oh, I drink water. Well, what kind of water are you drinking? Right? You need to know where your source of water is coming from, how often to drink it, how it's helping your body, what the quality is. Do you understand? And how often you're drinking it. So don't be just ignorant. You see, at the core of habits is knowledge. And at the end of habit is that you become the habit. Right? It is an essential part of you. We could do the same thing with all the other 5 topics. That is the end today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yes, can you explain fake news and how people are getting misled?
Okay. So even when it comes to knowledge, so that applies to knowledge, it is really very important that you don't listen to other stupid people. Because that's the bad thing with our culture. We listen to... So when you look at all your friends, they're as ignorant as you are. So you want to go to a different level to find the knowledge. So what do? If you notice, I don't employ fat people in my clinic. Because those people do not represent healthy people. Right? It's very important that even my staff, they know this. They have to live these lives so that when people walk into the clinic, they see people who are healthy. That's very important, right? So you have to go to the source, right? Most doctors don't read. They don't read the latest research, right? Like the latest research on vitamin D. How vitamin D is killing Americans, the lack of vitamin D. Big problem. It's the most important vitamin. Vitamin D. If you didn't take any other vitamin, you must take vitamin D every day. And you must take the 10,000 units. Yes, well, the ones that we sell comes with K1 and K2. Okay? It's very mandatory that you take vitamin D, okay? But most doctors don't know that. Or some women walk in here like the women this morning and they said, oh, if I take hormone replacement therapy, I'm going to have breast cancer. Bullshit. That research was debunked almost 10 years ago, and doctors who are ignorant are still telling women not to take estrogen. And so there is this fear in the population that estrogen will cause cancer. Yes, estrogen causes cancer only in women who have the genetic mutation for the beta receptors. Those are the only people. Oh yes, we have genetic tests for that. And if you don't have that mutation, you're fine. But if you have it, we have other means to help you support. So you see what fake news does? It's destroyed the lives of a lot of women who are in menopause and are not taking hormone replacement therapy. So what does it does? It kills the lack of estrogen, kills the deep desire for life in women. They are depressed, they are lonely, they are lifeless, they are moody, irritable, hot flashes, pissed off, cannot sleep. I can go on. And yet they think that is normal because of fake news. Okay, so it's really important that you connect with people who know where the truth is. And so you can also find your way to go to the truth. Like I gave you some research material today. It's very important for you to find the truth. It is your duty. Because there's a lot of bullshit around today. Okay? Anything else? Any other questions? Thank you for being here tonight. And have a good evening. Drive safely home. Thank you. Thank you. And thanks to my staff for staying to support this, okay? I deeply appreciate it. Thank you, guys. How are you? How are things going? What do you think?
Oh, today just say